The streets of Millerton were always quiet, but on days like this, they seemed to slumber. A gray mist hung in the air, casting a damp chill that seeped into bones. It was a morning that made you want to stay indoors, wrapped in blankets, and forget the world outside. But Harold Griffin didn't have that luxury. He had to go to school. His mom had made sure he was dressed and fed, though the eggs were overcooked and the toast was burnt. Harold didn't complain. He just stuffed his backpack and headed out into the mist. As he walked, the silence was broken only by the crunch of gravel beneath his sneakers. The streets were always empty, but today they seemed to stretch on forever, like a bleak, wet canvas. Harold quickened his pace, his eyes fixed on the looming shape of Millerton High. He hated this town, hated the way everyone knew everyone else's business, hated the way the streets seemed to shrink in the summer heat. But most of all, he hated the whispers. Whispers about the dead kid. They said he was buried in the old cemetery on the hill, that his ghost roamed the empty streets at night, searching for something. Nobody knew what. Some said he was a warning, a reminder that some secrets were better left unspoken. Others claimed he was a curse, a harbinger of doom. Harold didn't believe it, of course. He was a rational kid with rational thoughts. But sometimes, when the mist hung low and the streets were dark, he wondered. He wondered if the whispers were true, if the dead kid's presence was more than just a myth, a mere figment of small-town imagination. Harold had always been fascinated by the old cemetery, its crumbling headstones and rusty gates a magnet to his curiosity. As he turned the corner onto Maple Street, he caught a glimpse of the cemetery's wrought iron fence, the mist swirling around it like a veil of secrecy. He felt an inexplicable shiver, as if the dead kid was watching him, waiting for him to make a wrong move. Harold quickened his pace, his eyes fixed on the school's entrance. He was running late, and Mrs. Jenkins would have his head on a platter if he didn't show up on time. He burst through the doors, the warmth of the hallway enveloping him like a welcome hug. The morning passed in a blur of lectures and notes, Harold's mind wandering to the whispers, to the dead kid, and to the secrets that Millerton kept hidden. At lunchtime, he gravitated towards the outcast's table, where Emily sat, her eyes lost in the pages of a tattered novel. Harold slid into the seat across from her, unwrapping his sandwich with a quiet rustle. "Hey," Emily said, not looking up. "Heard the mist is gonna clear by afternoon." Harold grunted, taking a bite of his sandwich. Emily was the only one in school who didn't bother him about the whispers. She was an outsider, just like him, a transplant from the city, with a fondness for dark poetry and a gaze that saw right through the facade of small-town niceties. As they ate, Harold stole glances at Emily's book, the words "The Bell Jar" emblazoned on the cover in bold, red letters. He remembered his mom mentioning it, how it was about a girl who went crazy. Harold wondered if that's what happened when you listened to the whispers too closely. You started to hear the dead kid's voice, whispering secrets in your ear. The lunch bell rang, shrill and insistent. Emily dog-eared her page and closed the book, her eyes flicking up to meet Harold's. "You okay, Harold? You seem off." Harold shrugged, stuffing his trash into the paper bag. "Just the mist, I guess. It gets to me sometimes." Emily's gaze lingered, as if she knew there was more to it. But she just nodded, shouldering her backpack. "Walk you to class?" Harold nodded, and they fell into step together, the silence between them comfortable as an old shoe. As they walked, Harold felt the whispers receding, like the mist that clung to the streets of Millerton. But in the corner of his eye, he thought he saw a figure, a boy with eyes that seemed to follow him, watching him with an unblinking gaze, his face a deathly pale, his skin pulled taut over his skull. Harold's heart skipped a beat as he turned to face the hallway, but there was no one there, just the lockers, the bulletin boards, and the hum of fluorescent lights. "Harold, you okay?" Emily's voice was laced with concern. Harold nodded, still scanning the hallway. "Yeah, just thought I saw something." Emily's eyes narrowed, her gaze darting around the hallway. "What did you see?" Harold hesitated, unsure how to articulate the feeling that had crept over him. Just a face. A boy's face. I don't know. Maybe I'm just freaked out from the mist. Emily's grip on his arm tightened. What did the face look like? Harold's mind raced back to the fleeting glimpse. Pale with sunken eyes. His skin was so white, it almost glowed. Emily's face went still, her pupils constricting as if she'd seen something she didn't want to see. "We need to talk," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of the hallway. Harold's gut twisted into a knot. About what, Emily? But Emily just pulled him along, her fingers digging into his arm like a vice. "Not here," she muttered, her eyes darting around the hallway as if she feared being overheard. They slipped into an empty classroom, the windows fogged with condensation. The only sound the distant hum of the school's heating system. Emily pushed the door shut, her eyes locked on Harold's. "What do you know about the dead kid?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. Harold's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean? The whispers, the rumors?" Emily's gaze didn't waver. "I mean, what do you know about Jeremy Collier?" The name sent a shiver down Harold's spine. Jeremy Collier, the dead kid. The one they whispered about in hushed tones. The one whose ghost roamed the streets of Millerton. "I don't know much," Harold admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "Just that he died, and people say his spirit is stuck here." Emily's eyes seemed to bore into his soul. "That's not even half the story, Harold. Jeremy Collier died under mysterious circumstances. The police never figured out how or why. Some say it was an accident, others claim it was something else." Harold felt a creeping sense of unease. "What do you mean, something else?" Emily's voice dropped to a whisper. "Some say it was a ritual, Harold. A ritual gone wrong. They say Jeremy was trying to summon something, and it backfired. That's why his spirit is stuck here, trapped between worlds." Harold's mind reeled. A ritual? Summoning something? The idea seemed ridiculous, yet Emily's words sent a shiver down his spine. "Why are you telling me this, Emily?" Emily's gaze didn't waver. "Because I think you're connected to it, Harold. I think you're somehow tied to Jeremy Collier's fate." Harold's laughter was nervous, forced. "That's crazy, Emily. I'm just a guy who lives in Millerton. I don't know anything about summoning or rituals." But Emily's eyes seemed to see right through him. "You don't remember, do you, Harold? You don't remember the dreams? The ones where you're walking through the old cemetery? Where you're searching for something?" Harold's heart went cold. How did Emily know about those dreams? "How did you know about those dreams, Emily?" Harold's voice was barely above a whisper, his mind reeling with the implications. Emily's eyes seemed to hold a deep sadness. "Because I've been having them too, Harold. And I think it's connected to Jeremy Collier's death. I think we're being drawn into something that's been hidden in this town for years." Harold's mind raced with the possibility. Could it be true? Were they somehow linked to the dead kid? To the whispers that haunted Millerton streets? The classroom seemed to darken, the shadows closing in around them. Harold felt like he was drowning in the secrets that Millerton kept hidden. "What do we do, Emily?" he whispered, his heart racing with a mix of fear and curiosity. Emily's grip on his arm tightened. "We need to uncover the truth, Harold. We need to find out what happened to Jeremy Collier, and what's been hiding in this town all these years." Harold nodded, a sense of determination taking hold. Together, they would unearth the secrets of Millerton, no matter the cost. As they slipped out of the empty classroom, the mist-shrouded streets of Millerton seemed to loom before them, a labyrinth of secrets waiting to be uncovered. And in the heart of that labyrinth, the whispers of the dead kid echoed, beckoning them deeper into the darkness.